Alright, folks, let's finish off this week's Hobby Nightmares right, shall we? If you are a Patreon, stick around on Monday because I'm going to have a nice little shout out to you, just like I used to back in the day. I've not had time to do one of these graphics yet, so I'm going to do a graphic eventually, but I'm going to call a few of you out every single week because, you know, I'm messaging a few of you back and forth, and it's nice to call you out every once in a while for being good people. I'm always reticent to do it because I'm never really sure who's comfortable with it and who isn't, and it becomes unmanageable. But hey, I'm just going to do it, and if you're not comfortable with me shouting you out, then just send me a message on the Patreon. I love you all. Thank you very much for supporting me and all that. Anyway, let's move on to our first hobby nightmare, and it is Ollie. By the way, it's 27 degrees here right now. 27 in the UK, and we're not built for heat. We're not built for it. Not at all. No air conditioning here, sir. No, none whatsoever. Anyway, he says, "Hi North, I'm Ollie. I'm a pretty fresh listener, as I've been out of the hobby for almost 2 years and discovered your channel in my recommended feed." Well, thank you, YouTube, for recommending me to somebody. I'm told you don't really do that anymore, but anyway. I'm still into tabletop games, but I've found, due to my limited time available, the changes to the rules and introduction of Primaris Space Marines, I've lost my once strong drive for 40k. I mainly play Blood Bowl and Marvel Crisis Protocol due to the speed of these games. Side note, I work in design, and the Primaris Space Marines I dislike due to the change in style from the stylized knight suits with sharp edges and flat panels of the old Marine designs. The smooth edges and sci-fi designs don't take me, as I fell in love with a fantasy grimdark style that 40k used to be. I'm going to be honest with you, the models never really looked like that. Okay, so when you looked at Space Marine art back in the day, it was similar to Grey Knights, okay? The glow down that Grey Knights have, when you look at Grey Knight models compared to their art, there is a serious glow down. Like, you're like, what? This is that? But they look so cool in the art, right? Same with the old Space Marines. When you saw the old Space Marine models compared to the art, you're like, what? That's supposed to represent that? What? The one thing I can say for Primaris Space Marines is they look like their art. When you see art of a Primaris Space Marine cleaving through somebody with a power sword, then you get yourself a Primaris Space Marine with a power sword or a blade guard. It's the same. Do you know what I mean? I will say that for them. I almost got like a bait and switch feel with old school Space Marines. You're like, what? This squatty dude is that guy on the poster, you know? So I will say that for them. Sorry for the tangent, but a bit of background. I started 40k when I was 11, and I'm a bit of a narrative player with a very competitive edge. My faction of choice growing up was Space Wolves, specifically infantry heavy supported by a few dreadnoughts. In older editions, this used to drive my opponents mad, as their anti-tank was great at killing one Space Wolf at a time, but that was really it. My favourite tactic was to run a squad or two of Longfangs to pepper my opponents while my Claws and Hunters would run, or jump, in the case of my Sky Claws, up the board. I had a very good amount of success with it at my local club, due to my opponent struggling to know what unit to take down, as there was normally a lot of angry Space Vikings in their battle line. That's pretty cool. I like that way of playing. Good on you. Good on you. Moving on. Anyway, on to the first story. This is a nightmare in a gentle sense, but you might enjoy my disfortune. I'd agreed to play a friend who had been crafting a themed 7th edition Tau list based around a lot of battlesuits, primarily Crisis and Riptides. His idea was to bunker up, take down the bulk of a force during his turn, and then hide from the counterpunch in cover. We set up the board and rolled for the direction of play. Lengthways. I groan as I know my foot-slogging squads are about to be peppered for a few turns before they can make it into glorious battle. 2 turns go by, and my wolves have taken a real pounding. I'm left with 1 Longfang holding my back point, 2 damaged Hunter squads, a partially damaged Bloodclaw squad, and a few characters hidden in the other squads. Turn 3 rolls around, and I get to hurtle into combat. My units charged into the suits and their shield drones. I dig out my set of dice for my claws, and manage to get 12 runes onto the Crisis teams. He starts to allocate the wounds to the shield drone. Okay, I need a 4+ invulnerable save. He gets it. This repeats for 8 more rolls before he fails and the drone finally dies. Great. Okay, I'll put it on the next drone. So he blocks everything. Yeah, I remember this. It's the way that Tau players used to like say it like they'd done some sort of tactical amazing move. Dude, this was a stupid rule. It was literally Games Workshop saying, Tau get all of the benefits of their playstyle and none of the negatives. That's bad game design. And by the way, folks, Games Workshop have never been good at game design. Well, I would say that the original Rogue Trader, maybe 1, 2, 3 editions, right? But as soon as you're getting into 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, especially 7th onwards, yeah, you're getting into shoddy game design. There are multiple rules just like this that kind of ruin the game for everybody. Anyway, the next 2 combats go very similar, with a handful of shield drones dying and no damage to the actual battlesuits. By the time we get to the end of round 4, I've killed 2 more drones. To make matters worse, a friend had dropped by the club who wasn't playing and was watching our game. He's the kind of guy who's got a laugh that is either hilarious if it's about something else, or awful if it's at you. Every time I failed to kill a drone, I'd hear him cackle away. Dude, I'm going to get such heat for this. I'm the kind of guy who would tell this mate to fuck off. I really am. If I'm already dealing with rules that really aren't fair in my opponent's favour, you know, I'm chugging through. And by the way, I bet those battlesuits can still shoot, right? Because they're not in the same unit as the drones. So technically the drones are attached to their unit, but technically not. So they get all of the benefits and all the drawbacks, right? So you got to chew through these drones, or you know, whilst they're shooting. If I'm dealing with this, and then it's like you're being kicked when you're down, and somebody comes over and starts laughing in your face. Like, dude, I'm marching uphill here, a near vertical incline, and you're fucking laughing at me. Go away. I will slap you. Go away. Right? I would be in one of those kind of moods with this. I'd be like, no, man. Like, I'm already chugging uphill. I've got no chance of winning. The last thing I need is your dumbass laugh in my face every 5 seconds. Go away. You know? Again, I'm going to get hate for that, but I don't know, man. Like, I would, if I was playing this game, I would already be like, oh god, this is not fun. You know, I wouldn't be showing it to my opponent. But at the same time, don't prod me. If you come over and start prodding me, I will react. I'll be, no, dude, take your stupid asinine laugh and fuck off into that corner over there. Alright, thank you. By the end of the game, I was ready to burn my dice. You can't win them all, and I shook my friend's hand. We had a good laugh about it afterwards, but safe to say, I'm still reminded of the great drone defense of December. This is the time to take some tea. The next one is a little bit longer. No, it's not. It's the same size. Really? That's what she said. On to the next story. For context, while I was at senior school, that's high school for you American people, Games Workshop used to run a school league in the UK, which was a team tournament in stores between schools. Clubs and scout groups with the winning team going to the semi-finals at Warhammer World. The games were less than 1,000 points, and the total points varied year on year. Each game was time limited. I think it was 45 minutes, but it was almost 10 years ago, so it's all a bit fuzzy. As the most experienced player at the club, I was asked to join the team. We were told to build a force of 750 points. I built a force of Space Wolves consisting of a Wolf Guard battle leader, 9 Blood Claws, 7 Grey Hunters, 5 Long Fangs with plasma cannons, and a drop pod for the claw and character. The list used a new Space Wolves detachment to give me some bonuses for charges, but I lost out on the objective secured rule, but more on that later. I'd noticed that we could get bonus points in the event for being nominated and winning the most themed army. We had to give a printed list for our opponents to read before the game, so I spent time creating my list to look like a Viking scroll with runic style lettering and torn edges with a parchment colour background. I even included a blurb at the bottom describing my force's mission. My teammates had decided to go a different route. They'd all built their list to use a minimal requirements for the core detachment of 1 HQ and 1 troop choice, and then spent the rest of their points on a big unit that could kill anything. The Dark Angels player took a Tech Marine, some Scouts, and an Imperial Knight. Ugh. Get out. Get out. No. No. I don't care how old you are. Stupid child. I don't care how old you are. You're playing Dark Angels and you take a Tech Marine, some Scouts, and an Imperial Knight. Get out of my store. Seriously. Of course I wouldn't say that to them in real life. But my god. That guy would be getting a talking to. Like, dude, are you allergic to fun? Like, do you not like fun? Do you not like having friends? Is that where we are? Because this is how you lose friends. The Blood Angels player took a similar roster, but instead of the Knight, took a Forge World Sicarian tank. And people wonder why 40k is dying? In terms of, like, good narrative games. Good games that they used to get in 3rd edition, 4th edition, right? Remember those games? That'd be really close and you'd have fun with them? Yeah, this is why it's dying. Because kids are coming into the hobby and doing shit like this and not being called up on it. The Chaos player took a Demon Prince with wings, a squad of Marines, and I think a Defiler. Well, that's fine. That's better. It's themed. Right? You have a Chaos Demon, you have a Demon Prince with wings, a squad of Space Marines, and a Defiler. That's a Chaos list. Right? It even looks like a Chaos list. An Imperial Knight, Scout, and a Tech Marine isn't. We rock up to Warhammer World with our lists, and we're in Bugman's bar checking in. I decide to have a look around at other people's armies, as I love seeing everybody's painting. To my surprise, 80 to 90% of the lists I saw were the same style as my teammates. First round, and I paired into a Harlequins player playing the Kill Points mission. It was a fantastic game where he annihilated my hunters using the Spirit Seer's psychic power that rolls against the stat and killed a model until it ran out of models to kill or didn't beat the stat. Following this, my claws and their character smashed their way through the Eldar's vengeance for their fallen brothers. The next round I rock up to the table and see my opponent is playing Imperial Guard. No tanks, no vehicles, just lots of infantry squads and one with heavy weapons. The tournament organiser rolls the dice and gets the 7th edition mission that was the 2 objectives, one for each player that is placed in their half of the table, and you get 3 points at the end of the game for each held. Oh, how simple the game used to be, hey lads. How nice that sounds. Rather than, I've got these 17 secondaries and I get a -1 point for this and I get a +2 D3 points for that. Shut up! The guard player sees this and puts his objective as far over to my right of the table and as far back towards his edge on the table as he can, go legally for the mission. Seeing this, I put my objective on the opposite corner so that he would need to commit resources to win the game and hopefully spread thin his forces to keep me from whittling the horde down. My opponent decided to deploy every single guardsman he had in that one 24-inch tile of the board around his objective. Note, despite the size of the game, we were still playing on the standard 6x4 tables of 7th edition. I decided to play it safe and deploy my hunters around my objective and set up my claws in the drop pod with the battle leader and the fangs hidden in cover, ready to blast templates into his force. He wins the roll off to go first and annihilates my fangs in cover using his autocannons that ignore the cover with an order. I responded by dropping my claws into his back line. He then proceeds to slow play for the remainder of the game so that my claws cannot walk through his guardsman squads in enough time to take the objective. As I didn't have objective secured, my claw unit, despite being troops, were contesting the objective when the final timer went, just before we got to my 3rd assault phase. I was a bit furious. Being a bit of a nervous person, I always struggled to say stuff that would cause conflict, but as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at challenging slow play at events in a gentle way. This was a real eye-opener for me. The rest of the day went well and I won my last game. To my dismay, the rest of the team had one win between them. While happy with my result, I realised we'd not get through to the finals unless we got lucky with other team scores and the bonus for the painting and narrative points. I was getting nominated for the most narrative list building during a game one, and at the awards ceremony at the end, I was surprised to find that I'd actually won the award. What made it even funnier was I was the only player to have bothered. Though the bonus 80 tournament points helped our overall ranking, we did indeed miss out on the finals. Thanks again for reading my hobby nightmares. I've got a few more tabletop related ones I can share in the future, but these two are long enough. All the best, Ollie. Yeah, send them in, man. Send them in. That sounds like fun. This sounds like tournament games have always been a bit of an issue. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, this is back in 7th edition. So this sounds to me as if, tournament games... Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the attitude is just different, man. It's just different. If you'd like tournaments, absolutely all power to you. Not a problem there. I'm not a big fan. Never have been a big fan. I think it brings out the worst in people a lot of the time. And the amount of dudes I've seen throwing hissy fits at events, thank God we didn't have any at Exile Fest, but, Jesus, dude. Not great. Anyway, let's talk to James. How's it going, man? Anyway, he says, Hey Northern, I've been a manager at Games Workshop for about 5 months now, alright? And I just wanted to reach out and talk openly about something I've been wrestling with. I really do love this job. It's honestly one of the best I've ever had. But I've been having a hard time with how limited I am when it comes to building a community and creating an inviting hobby space. My store has a pretty large floor plan. Okay? But because of how the table policy is set up, it ends up looking pretty barren. There's a ton of empty space that just makes the store feel a little bit cold and lifeless. I've tried bringing this up through the usual channels, but the responses I've gotten have been pretty much just deal with it, quote unquote. Which I know is kind of the standard tone these days. Still, it's tough to swallow when I know how much better the store could be with just a few more better tables. Okay, I'll carry on then give you some advice. I've thought about just putting my own 6x4 table toppers over the two 2x4s, not to break rules. But because I want this place to feel like a real Warhammer space, I want people to come in and immediately get what this hobby is all about. Right now, it feels like I'm stuck between doing what I know would help the store thrive and following policies that make it hard to do so. I'm not trying to go rogue here, I just want to do right by the hobby, the community, and the brand. I figured if anybody would understand where I'm coming from, it'd be you. I'm open to suggestions, and if there's a better way to make all of this work within the lines, I'm all ears. Thanks for hearing me out. Okay, yeah, that sucks, man. That sucks. You've got the right attitude, though. And I think even dudes working at Games Workshop will give you that advice. They'll be like, yeah, you got the right attitude. The right attitude is, I want this to work for my customers and for the hobby. Good attitude. And I think a lot of them will give you a pat on the back for that. Same thing, though. How do I put it? How do I put it this way? Sometimes you've got to break an omelette to make a few eggs, right? It's better to ask forgiveness than permission. Don't say anything to anybody. Do what you feel is best for your store. Literally. I'm going to say to you now, if your numbers go up, it's about the risk, right? If you think your numbers will go up, and you have something to stand on by introducing more gaming to your store, then do it. Right? Because that means even if they pull you up and say, why are you doing games in your store? You just hold up your results. You hold up your numbers. Well, number was here, and now it's here. Since I brought gaming into the store. So, I'm going to continue doing that until you expressly tell me not to. If you want to tell me to stop making money, no problem, right? But since I've done this, we're making more money. Right? At least you got that as a backup. If you're doing it just for atmosphere and the feels, that's when you need to be more cautious. Because then if they come down on you like a ton of bricks, you don't have anything to hold it up. You can't just say, well, the feeling in the store is much better now. They'll say, yeah, but we don't want that feeling in the store. Do you know what I mean? Are they letting you do games anyway? Because you just said that you have two 2x4 tables, right? If you already have two 2x4 tables, are they letting you do games in the store? If they are, then do it, man. Introduce another 6x4 table. Just do it. Put 2 6x4 tables in your space. They're already letting you do gaming, right? Now, if they put a carpet blanket ban on gaming in your store, and then you try and do gaming on 6x4 tables, then you'd be in trouble if shit hits the fan. Yes. But if you've already got 2 2x4 tables that do gaming, right, and you just replace them with 2 6x4 tables, the only thing you've gotten wrong is the size of the table. And if they say to you that table's too big, just put them back to 2x4s. No problem, right? I take that risk if I was you. If you're already allowed to do gaming in your store, take the risk. Do 2 6x4 tables. Have fun with it, right? At the end of the day as well, mate, working for Games Workshop isn't the be-all and end-all. Unless you plan to stay there for the rest of your career. I know some dudes do. But what I'm saying is, you need to figure out what hill is worth dying on, okay? If this is really going to help your store and really make your job more bearable and more enjoyable, do it. Do it. And if they say don't do that, then stop. It's better to ask forgiveness than permission. Just stop. As soon as they say, please don't do that, stop, do something else. One thing I will say, though, in a normal company, that would be the way to do it. But also, Games Workshop is a company that holds grudges. If you stick your head above the parapet and you do 2 6x4 tables, there is a chance the wrong person will get wind that that's what you've done. And even though they say, please stop doing it, and you say, yeah, no problem, I'll go back to 2 2x4s, your name will be marked as a problem. Right? A problem. Which means when you go to retail workshops or training, you'll be singled out. Other managers won't want to speak to you. They'll act like you've got the plague whenever you walk into a meeting. Right? Happened to me. Happened to me. It sucked. So I just doubled down on what I was doing. I just doubled down. I was like, fuck them. I'll have 4 6x4 tables. Suck my balls. Right? That kind of thing. So it's up to you, is what I'm going to say. If you feel like you can get away with doing 6x4 tables, and you've got a decent trainer, a decent line manager, that kind of thing, then go for it, right? If you think you might lose your job or be put on some sort of watch list because you've got 2 6x4 tables in your store, don't, right? This is your judgment call. But if I was you, working the Games Workshop isn't the be-all and end-all. In fact, it's kind of I'm going to say it, if you're working in retail Games Workshop for your entire career, you're in just above minimum wage, and you think you're some sort of big shot. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad, right? Working with Games Workshop should be a thing you do for a while, in my opinion. Especially in retail. Anywhere else, yeah, you can make a career out of it. Working with Games Workshop retail, unless you move somewhere else in the company, if you're a manager, you should be looking to doing something else. Being a Games Workshop manager is not the end of your career, or you shouldn't treat it that way. Anybody who does is a bit sad. And those who act like being a Games Workshop manager is the greatest thing ever and the best job ever, I'm sorry. The only reason you're saying that is because you can't get any other job in the company because everybody hates your fucking guts. Just saying. I know, because I've known a few of those dudes. I've known plenty of those dudes. Right? They're assholes. Nearly to a man. Career Games Workshop managers who are there for 10, 20, 30 years tend to be assholes. Why? Do I know that? Because the company doesn't want them anywhere else. They don't want to lose them because they keep bringing in money, but they don't give them any other jobs. They don't move them to Lenton, do they? They don't move them to Nottingham. There's a good reason for that. They don't want to be around them. Yeah, these managers barely say anything. Like the managers that I knew were absolute dickheads and have been there for 20, 30 years. They barely said anything in training. Not because they didn't have anything to say, because they knew nobody wanted to hear from them. Nobody wanted to speak to them. Nobody wanted to hear from them. Nobody got into conversations with them. They sat on their own. You know? Bitter and alone. So yeah, dude, working with Games Workshop as a manager is not the be-all and end-all. If you think it is, you need to reassess your life. So I would just take the risk. I would rather enjoy this work and this job than play to rules that absolutely hamstring me. And if they want to sack me, fine. I'll do something else. Right? Nobody in the real world will give a shit if you're sacked from Games Workshop for having more than one gaming table in your store. People in Games Workshop will try and make you think that it's the worst thing that could ever happen to you. It's not. Right? You were in a cult, my friend. That's what you were in. You were in a cult. Just do it. I'm going to go down hard. Just do it, man. Do it. All right. Next Tommy Nightmare. It's from Ralph. How's it going, man? He says, "Hello, North. Please call me Ralph. This story isn't very bad as far as nightmares go, but it involves an argument between Firstborn and Primaris Space Marines. So I thought you might find it interesting." Okay. "I got into the hobby about 10 years ago with Dark Eldar, and I've since also made Craftworld Eldar and Tyranid armies as well." Well, good for you, man. Good for you. "So I thought you might find it interesting. I'm now starting a Firstborn Space Marine army, specifically the Marines Malevolent." Ah, you're one of those people. For those of you who don't know, the Marines Malevolent are like a freakishly, comically evil loyalist Space Marine chapter. "For a long time, I was thinking of making a custom chapter with their founding gene stock coming from one of the traitor legions. No one would know this, of course, including themselves. While I was doing research on various Space Marine chapters, I came across the Marines Malevolent. After reading what little lore they had, I realised I didn't need to make a custom chapter because my ideal chapter already existed. The Marines Malevolent are exactly what I would have made as a custom Space Marine chapter. They are cold, calculating weapons of the Imperium who think of themselves as more valuable than the Imperial citizens, since it requires great resources to produce Space Marines, and citizens breed like rabbits and number in the trillions. This appeals to me, as it makes them stand out significantly from the other Space Marine chapters, who are all seen as heroes of the Imperium that are there to defend humanity. Also, the Marines Malevolent have a lot of scavenged and repurposed armour, as they apparently have a hard time getting resupplied by the Mechanicus, so I could make some very interesting models using various marks of armour. Onto the actual nightmare now, though. A couple of weeks ago, I went down to my local hobby store to see if they had any of the Plastic Heresy Corvus armoured tactical squads. Mark IV armour, I think. Sadly, I was out of luck, as they didn't have any. I went and asked the fellow behind the register if they possibly had any in the back, to which he replied that they didn't. One of the neckbeards playing 40k in the store, let's call him Johnny, overheard me asking for Firstborn Marines and sneered at me. "Why would you want to buy manlit Marines anyway? The Primaris models are way better, just look at the scale." He gestured down to his army, which was some Ultramarine successor chapter. I can't remember which one. Dude, that's some low-level shade. See if you guys can pick up on the shade, right? He gestured down to his army, which was some Ultramarine successor chapter. I can't remember which one. I replied to him politely, "Oh, I know the Firstborn Marines look pretty small compared to the Primaris, but I honestly just prefer their armour and weapon loadouts more. I like tactical squads because you have options for what special weapons to bring with them. Plus, I'm making a Marines Malevolent army, so I want to mix up of the different marks of armour in their squads." That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't think you're right on the aesthetic, but that's fine. Let me take a quick sip of tea. Like a lot of you will know, that I am of the opinion that if you think Primaris Marines look worse than Firstborn Marines, I think you're either blind or in denial. But that doesn't mean there are no reasons to buy old school Space Marines. Now, I wouldn't pay full price for them, as Ralph is trying to do, because they're not worth it. Simple, right? Unless it's a Horus Heresy squad, then maybe it is, because they're kind of new. But the old Marines, no. I'm not paying £37.50 for them. That's not happening. Absolutely not. But there are reasons to buy original Space Marines. Now, especially if you can source them from somewhere that's not a rip-off. I think Ralph's idea here is a good one. And I think as soon as he's qualified it with, "Oh yeah, I'm collecting Marines Malevolent, and I just like the different options they give me." Dude, argument stopped. It's not even an argument. You just nod along and go, "Actually, that's a cool idea, man. Yeah, cool. Enjoy your Firstborn Marines." In fact, don't even call out originally. Like if somebody wants Primaris or Firstborn Space Marines, shut up. Just shut up. They want what they want. Let them get what they want. You know? It's their money, let them get what they want. I wouldn't do that, but they can do what they want with it, you know? But if you say, why are you doing, you know, Firstborn Space Marines, again, don't do that. But if you ever do, and you get a response with, oh, I'm doing a hobby project that needs Firstborn Space Marines, shut the fuck up. Argument over. Literally, argument over. You know? At this point, Johnny seemed to get a little upset. You know the tactical squads are worse than the intercessors, right? Having one special weapon is pointless. Just play Primaris where you have where you can have a Hellblaster squad. The whole squad gets plasma guns, they can actually do some real work. Why do you want to play the Marines Malevolent? They suck. Okay, this dude just that guy. He's just a prick. Now, North, one of my major dislikes of the Primaris Marines is the way Games Workshop has tried to turn them into Eldar with their specialised squads that carry all the same weapon. So I told Johnny, well, I already have an Eldar army, why would I want to make a second one wearing Space Marine armour? Johnny did not like this answer, and I could see he was starting to turn a little red. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Primaris are nothing like Eldar. I shouldn't be surprised that a person with shitty enough taste like Marines Malevolent doesn't know anything about how Primaris Space Marines work. At this point, I didn't feel like getting into a whole argument with Johnny, Space Marine player over there, about why Primaris are functionally not fun to play, and why every Space Marine chapter, liking the bland Johnny Space Marine chapter's Heroes of Humanity, is also boring. I could also see that his opponent was getting a little annoyed waiting for Johnny to return to their game, so I told Johnny he can think what he likes, and I left. That is my nightmare. Not really much of a nightmare, I know, but I wanted to know what you think about the Primaris Space Marine versus Firstborn mindset in terms of lore and playstyle. I already know your opinion on the models, so I won't try to convince you that Firstborn look better aside from scale size. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks, Ralph. No, you're wrong, right? So because I think if you gave me Primaris-sized Firstborn Space Marines, I'd buy them. Right? Now, I prefer the sleeker-looking armor of the Primaris Space Marines, but there's something to be said for the really cool, grimdark look of old Space Marines. If you gave me those Space Marines, the same size and scale as the Primaris Marines, maybe with a few bits of the Primaris Marine that I really like the the way the arms look with the different padding on the arms to make it look like the arms are quite muscular underneath, that kind of thing. Now you're talking, right? Now you got me, okay? I just think they look silly. I think old Space Marines look silly. I want to, whenever I see them, I want to giggle. I'm like, dude, they're so cute. Look at those, right? Heroes of Humanity, my ass, right? That kind of thing. That's just my opinion, though. You can like what you like. In terms of the Primaris versus Firstborn mindset debate, I think this is more a zeitgeist problem, right? I think it's gone from being Primaris versus Firstborn to you know, which Space Marine look do you prefer, to being what do you prefer, old school 40k or new 40k, right? That's where it's gone. That's why it's such a controversial issue. Because Firstborn Space Marine guys tend to be the guys who are the old guard and they're not budging and they're very stubborn. But in being so, they talk a load of shit. Right? In being so, they just say things that aren't fucking true. Say, well, you know, no, they don't look squatty at all. They look better than Primaris Space Marines. Dude, get off the stuff. Get off the stuff. Just tell me you don't like the way 40k is gone, and so you like the way that the Firstborn Marines make you feel by having them in your army, and I'll agree with you, shake your hand and move on. But don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining. Okay? Don't lie. You know you're lying. Like, you know you're lying. They look silly. Now, you can like what you like, but don't tell me something that isn't true. Serious. I don't know how you look at the Primaris and then you look at the Firstborn and go, Firstborn look better. And unless you like the helmet. If you like the helmet, fair enough, put it on a Primaris Space Marine. No problem with that at all. Absolutely fine. Right, but the scale, the look of the armor, the feel of the armor, dude, no. Come on. Come on. You know? A lot of it is nostalgia. It's nostalgia bait. A lot of these dudes who love Firstborn are neck deep in 3rd edition nostalgia. And I can't really blame them. That's why I would stick up for them. If they just said that, If they just said, it's nostalgia, dude, I love my old Space Marines, I'd be like, mate, you're a Chad, that's awesome. You like what you like, you do what you do, right? But if they stand there and say, no, actually, my Marines look better than yours, dude, you're fucking lying. Articulate your point better. There's a reason why you like Firstborn Marines, and it's not because Firstborn Marines models look better than Primaris Space Marines. Right? Don't tell me the sky is red, please. Just don't. Don't tell me the sky is red. Thank you. Don't do that. Now, on the flip side, Primaris Space Marine dudes, a lot of dudes who like Primaris Space Marines really do start to get into the territory of, if you like Firstborn Space Marines, you're problematic, quote-unquote, right? You like the more grim-dark aspects of 40k, you're probably a straight white male, all that bullshit. I've seen that come up quite a lot on when people sent me stuff from Reddit and things. Again, don't go on Reddit, guys. Please don't go on Reddit. It's a cesspool. But, this is an internet argument. People in the internet age tend to like Primaris Space Marines more. Right? And they think, if you do Firstborn Marines, you're an idiot and you're some sort of chud who just, likes the grimdark aspects of 40k, doesn't like women, that kind of stuff, I see that argument getting thrown around all the time. And again, it's bullshit. Don't say that. If you like Primaris Space Marines because they look better, don't attribute all of the worst parts of the world to somebody who likes Firstborn Space Marines. Dude, they might just like Firstborn Space Marines and the nostalgia of 40k that they had when they were a kid. When they were a kid, they didn't even know that woke stuff existed, because it didn't. It was a simpler, happier time. Maybe that's what they're pining for, rather than being some sort of chud who doesn't like women. Not everything is political. Sometimes somebody who likes a Firstborn Space Marine just likes the way that Firstborn Space Marine makes him feel. All the dudes I know, and I know a few who love their Firstborn Space Marines, that's what they like about them. They love the feel. They love putting them on the tabletop and it feeling like... I've got one mate. Hello, Charlie. He's one of the dudes on the Discord. He actually does Goblin Green bases with his Firstborn Space Marines. Dude, I love that. It's the feel, man. It's the feel. It's nostalgia. He's like, oh, dude, I love Warhammer. Here are my Firstborn Space Marines. And, dude, I applaud that. That's great. That's great. But on one side, don't tell me Firstborn Space Marines look better than Primaris. They don't. And on the other side, don't tell me that anyone who collects Firstborn Space Marines is automatically problematic and doesn't like women and is some sort of chud. They're not. Right? Both sides, smack your heads together and shut the fuck up. Because you're both wrong on a multitude of levels. That's what I think about the Primaris Space Marines versus Firstborn debate. In typical Northern fashion, I'm going to find a middle ground here. Give me Primaris Space Marines, right? With the Firstborn chest plate, with the Aquila on it, the Firstborn helmet. And maybe Firstborn shoulder pads as well, the pauldrons. That's it. That is the perfect Space Marine for me. Give me that. And we're good. In fact, I might have to collect a squad of that. I might have to combine two sets. I'm going to do it. You convinced me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to buy... I'm going to source, not going to buy. I'm going to source a squad of 10 old Space Marines and a squad of 10 new Space Marines. I'm going to combine them and paint them and show you how cool they look. Alright? That's what I'm going to do. Anyway, I love you all a long time. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. I will speak to you for a live stream on Sunday where I'm going to be speaking to the guys over at Black Lodge Games. So we'll be there to answer some questions and have some fun. And then I'll be back on Monday for some more Hobby Nightmares. A week this Sunday. There is a week this Sunday. That is July the 20th. Will be Cyberpunk 2087 Night 2. A massive session, talking maybe 4 or 5 hours probably. So that will be on Sunday the 20th. So I love you a long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for some more fun and games here on the Northern Exile channel. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.